Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, here to talk about The Traitors Season 3, Episode 8, titled A Bitch is Lying. Last week on The Traitors, Detective Derek followed the Traitors' trail to his own demise when he was murdered at dawn, and after a creepy crawly endurance challenge, the Faithfuls finally voted to send mob boss traitor Boston Rob swimming with the fishes. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description to my playlist where you can catch up on my previous Traitors recaps. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. As always, my videos aren't meant to replace the original content, so if you missed the episode, I highly encourage you to seek it out on Peacock. We pick back up where we left off, where the at-risk players Chriselle, Gabby, Dylan, Dolores, and Tom await their fate. If they see traitors, they'll take their final breath, and if they see Alan, they'll be safe. Fast forward to breakfast, where Brittany and Danielle are first to enter. Brittany doesn't want anyone to die, but Danielle's already killed someone. They're both glad that Rob is gone, and Brittany tells us she fully trusts Danielle and thinks Danielle is a faithful. Sierra is annoyed with Rob after finding out he was a traitor because he put her in a coffin in her new YSL boots and calls him big dickish. Sam gets some character development, sharing that he came from Iran and spoke no English, which helped him to be a smart listener. Then the at-risk players start trickling in. First Gabby, who thinks Chriselle was murdered. Tom comes in and describes Alan's outfit at the church. Sam tells the group that if a traitor was among the at-risk players, they wouldn't have gone to the church and wouldn't know what happened or what Alan was wearing. When Carolyn comes in, Sam asks her what happened. She's obviously caught off guard and trying to string together a story, throwing in her random bird call sound effects to throw them off her scent. Sierra asks Carolyn what Alan was wearing. Carolyn is shook and stammering. Tom interrupts this to chime in with what Alan was wearing, which ruins their plan. They almost caught Carolyn. When Dolores comes back, they don't really try to interrogate her. Flashback to last night, where Chriselle and Dylan await their fate, and we see what Alan was wearing: a black cape and fedora. Truly, anyone who doesn't remember this outfit was not there. Dylan sees Alan, and Chriselle is murdered face to face by Carolyn and Danielle. They tell her she was too faithful and had to go. Chriselle lays in her coffin and is murdered. Chriselle says goodbye to us, saying she's especially surprised that Carolyn is a traitor. So we lose Chriselle here. Pre-season, I didn't think she could be a traitor and didn't see her being a strategic player, and boy wasn't she. She joins the Bambis, which is more a clique than an alliance, but it could have worked for her in the game, although she turns on her friend Nikki. If Nikki were a traitor, it would have been great for Chriselle to keep her around. Wes calls Chriselle the worst Traitors player ever globally for this move. She goes on to be a bit manipulated by Boston Rob and really just figures nothing out and gets nothing accomplished in the game. Ultimately, she was such an obvious faithful and they felt she needed to go. She served some cutesy looks and had her personal rivalry with Tom, but I'm left wondering why she did this show. I hope she got something out of it and is still friends with the Bambis at least. Back at breakfast, Gabby is upset for losing Chriselle, making her the last Bambi left in the game. Alan enters wearing something blue, a suit, tie, and beanie, telling them to be a doll and meet him outside. For my best dress at breakfast award, I love Dylan Efron's colorful sweater. These colors bring happiness. Why is Danielle dressed like a catering server in hell? Following breakfast, Danielle is feeling good about her game after Rob is gone, and Carolyn is struggling to trust Danielle after Danielle has come for Carolyn so many times. The players disperse. Tom asks the stag statue for answers in the game. Tom feels like Dolores would have killed him if she was a traitor, and now he feels like she's a faithful. Carolyn is not feeling peaceful with Danielle. She's reminding the group that Danielle is suspicious. Elsewhere, Sam suggests they revisit the coffin theory, speculating that there had to be a traitor in one of the coffins, and Sierra is the last coffin person left. Sierra is also the only person who voted with Rob at the last round table. Sierra tells Gabby that she feels Brittany and Danielle are too close. They're an alliance that are gonna take each other to the end. Sierra says, a bitch is lying and I'm gonna catch her. And oops, she said the thing. For their challenge, they need to split into 2 teams of 5. 5 will go with Alan to the woods and have the chance for a shield, and 5 will stay at the castle. Danielle wants to go to the woods so she could help Brittany get a shield and protect Brittany from murder at Carolyn's hand. Tom, Ivor, Brittany, Sierra, and Danielle are going to the woods, and Dolores, Dylan, Sam, Gabby, and Carolyn will stay back at the castle. Alan explains that his dear Aunt Mildred had a bunch of dolls that sing nursery rhymes backwards. Mildred, you good? The players need to find dolls in the woods that sing songs backwards. They'll call the players in the castle and repeat the nursery rhyme. The players in the castle will then repeat the rhyme into the gramophone, which will let them play it in reverse. For every rhyme they call back and get right, they'll win $5,000, with $20,000 total up for grabs. The woods team arrives at Alan's cabin, where Alan's outfit has been altered with haunted pussy bow and doll head pocket square. They get started looking through the cabin for the dolls. They're also getting squirted in the face with water. Sierra finds a doll that says the shield is inside a bear and announces it, so they all just start looking for the shield. As the castle players are standing idly by waiting for the phone to ring, they spend half their allotted time looking for the shield, but Tom eventually finds a doll that teaches him how to sing in fanciful tongues. Brittany tells us Tom is having an out-of-body experience. Tom sings his song into the phone. Sam calls Tom a terrible singer. I don't think he's that bad. Ivor picks up the phone, confusing Alan. Ivor doesn't even know why he picked up the phone. Tom was the VIP. He helped them get all 4 nursery rhymes, earning $20,000 for for the pot, and through this, Sierra finds the bear and gets the shield. Team Woods heads back to the castle. Sierra tells us she feels like Brittany's a traitor, but in their own car, Ivor and Danielle plot to banish Sierra at the round table. Back at the castle, Sam continues to campaign against Sierra, but Carolyn wants to target Brittany to bring Danielle closer to her. Dylan also brings Brittany's name up to Dolores because Derek threw Brittany's name out and could be right. Carolyn approaches Sierra and tells Sierra that the coffin theory has come back up in conversations. Sierra thinks back to the coffin murder where Jeremy was murdered. She thinks that makes Danielle look traitorous because Jeremy had been saying Danielle's name at the time. Sierra brings the Jeremy point to the other faithfuls, throwing some suspicion on Danielle. Sierra is ready to fight to save herself at the round table. So they head to round table where Alan is still wearing his little doll. Sierra kicks things off saying the coffin theory is flawed with no evidence, and the guys bring up that the rest of the traitors are probably women. Tom chimes in that the girls are better cheaters than guys, which makes the ladies erupt, but he clarifies that he meant traitors, not cheaters. Sierra says that Brittany would be a great traitor, to a huge eye roll and defensive argument from Brittany. Sierra also brings up that Jeremy was targeting Danielle right before he was murdered. To defend herself, Danielle says she voted against Boston Rob twice, and everyone who's been murdered has been close to her, which she feels should clear her name. Ivor suspects that Bob and Rob coerced Sierra into getting into the coffin, which Sierra calls bullshit. She says she's not coercible. They get to voting, and this ends up being unanimous against Sierra, with Sierra getting 8 votes and casting the sole vote for Brittany. On the way out, she reveals that she's a faithful. They're all really shocked. So we lose Sierra here, who I predicted would be quiet based on the lack of Summer House content I could find of her online, but I was very wrong about her. She's outspoken and will tell it like it is. They suspected Sierra as a traitor from the beginning since at least the coffin incident, with many eliminated players saying in post-mortem they felt she was a traitor, despite her being pretty invisible in the edit for most of the season. She was present in the game, but I don't think she's a very good player. She was always trying to get a shield in challenges, but I feel she should have put more energy and effort into convincing people she was faithful to avoid her inevitable banishment instead of a murder that was never going to happen. I predicted she'd bring fashions, and she did go on to win Best Dressed at Breakfast. Ultimately, I feel the producers didn't really know what to do with her in the edit and focused instead on other big name acts at her expense. But this last episode was really fun for her, and her appearance here probably earned her some new fans. Following Sierra's banishment, Dylan is really upset and regretful for voting for her. Carolyn tries to get the team from the woods to tell her who has the shield, but nobody's telling her. Sam, Ivor, and Dylan meet in the secret room behind the bookshelf. They feel like one of them will be murdered and still feel the traitors are women. Danielle and Carolyn are in the library right outside the secret room, strategizing about the shield. Well, Carolyn is trying to shake Danielle down for shield information, but Danielle's not giving her any. And Dylan pops out of the secret room, catching them talking and causing an awkward moment. Dylan tells us that Danielle has valid suspicion on her, and he's gonna look into it. Later, Alan tells us that the traitors will have a choice tonight. They can choose to murder or recruit. So the traitors head to the turret. Danielle quickly tells Carolyn that Sierra had the shield. Alan enters and tells them their options. Danielle wants to recruit and Carolyn wants to murder. Danielle feels like they're gonna keep voting for women until they catch a traitor, and they need another woman there in the turret to throw under the bus. Danielle wants to recruit Brittany, but they also consider Gabby. Carolyn doesn't trust Danielle and feels like Danielle and Brittany will team up against her. So that's where the episode ends. Here are my thoughts. I watched the postmortem from last week. After Derek was banished, he's yet another player that's shocked by Danielle being a traitor because of how scared of being murdered she's acting, and about Carolyn because she's acting exactly how she did on Survivor, and he says it's benefiting her and hopes she wins. Derek gives no reaction at all to reading that Boston Rob was a traitor. Kind of solidifies how boring of a TV person he is. Like, after all that, you're not gonna say, woohoo, I was right. He's just like, I feel vindicated. When Rob and Derek meet, Rob predicts that a recruited traitor will win this season, which I totally agree with, but I'm also always wrong. On the decision to eliminate Chriselle, I get that she's an obvious faithful, but there are also a few other obvious players, and Chriselle was so bad at the game. You're getting to the end where you want people to be wrong about you. I think this was a mistake. This daily challenge was played on the UK version pretty exactly, and while I don't usually mind them doing the same stuff, it was a bit of a repetitive snooze to watch a second time. I don't think the production believes enough people watch both to care about making either unique, but it's kind of lame for those of us that do watch both sometimes. Does anyone agree? Tom was really fun in this challenge. I don't watch Pump Rules, but I struggle to think he's this fun and silly on that show. Is he? I heard he was this big cheating monster, but he's a pretty entertaining big cheating monster. Although they were following a bad lead, I think Sam was right to suggest that they go back to old theories and clip the coffin theory. At this point, they have limited banishments where they're going to have banished players reveal their role before they head to the finale, where roles won't be revealed. They need to get serious and get as many answers as they can. Through Sierra's banishment, they of course learn her role, but also get that tidbit about the Jeremy murder, which actually is enough evidence to implicate Danielle, especially because a lot of the other murders were threats to the traitors, and Jeremy wasn't a threat to Rob. This is why the best traitor strategy is to off random people. The men smartly deduct that there has to be a woman in the turret. Again, with limited opportunities for murder, they should have murdered a man last week instead of Chriselle. Because Danielle is right, they're going to keep banishing women until they find a traitor. Getting to the turret decision, I don't see why Danielle was worried that Carolyn would eliminate Brittany. How could Carolyn do that without Danielle being on board? Brittany didn't need a shield. They could consider eliminating a man. With 4 faithful men in the final 8, you don't want to give them the numbers to decide to just vote out all the women and take us truly to the darkest timeline. But I think it would be smart to recruit. With the shield having left the game with Sierra, if everyone shows up to breakfast, the players will know a recruitment happened, and all of the obviously faithful men go back to being potential suspects. From what we saw, Carolyn won't let it be Brittany recruited, but they could get it to be Gabby. That would be great for Carolyn, but not Danielle. Carolyn and Gabby could team up, sway the house to vote Danielle out, say they caught their woman traitor, and then run the rest of the game. So that's my prediction for the next week, but I'm always wrong. So let me know in the comments. What did you think of this episode, Chriselle's murder, Sierra's banishment, and what do you think will happen next week? That's all I have to say about this episode. If you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back next week with more Traitors. I'm also recapping the challenge All Stars 5 and Deal or No Deal Island Season 2. You know where to find me. Bye!